This is the Wrassing Podcast, the only podcast that brings to you stories directly from the wrestling superstars and insiders from all across the globe. This is episode number 1. Today's special guest is one of the most respected members of the wrestling business. In his almost 2-decade-long career, he has toured all around the globe and is considered to be the absolute best at what he does. Wrestling fans, I am stoked to introduce to you current Impact Wrestling referee, Mr. Brandon Tolle.
It is a total honor, sir, to have you on the show, not just because you are the Brandon Tolle, one of the most famous and well-respected referees in the community, but also because you are a professional wrestling referee. And not a lot of people know the importance of a referee in the business. So would you like to tell us, sir, something about refereeing and why a referee is so important in the wrestling business?
No, thank you first for having me. I appreciate it. As the third man in the middle, obviously, we have rules and everything we have to abide by within the constraints of a match. We're also there for health and safety reasons.
Right.
Heaven forbid something should happen to a talent in the ring. We're the absolute first line of defense. Right. So we're the first ones are going to know if something's going on. So the ability to be in there and to in small part, tell the story, because the focal point should not be on us as referees, but to be able to, be a small part in telling that story, especially being with Impact for the few years that I've been with Impact has been a complete pleasure. So yeah, it's definitely multifaceted when we step in there, but it's something that I take very much a lot of pride in doing, and a lot of pride for what I like to call being the craft of being a referee.
Right. And I've read that you have been a fan of wrestling since you were, like 3 years old? Is that true?
Yeah, since I actually, probably about three years old. I think my earliest memories were with my father watching wrestling on TV at home, and then just kind of blossomed from there.
And did you always wanted to get into the wrestling business, or was it something that just happened?
No, I knew probably around age 10 or 11, it's something I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I didn't know necessarily what aspect of wrestling. I just knew I wanted to do it.
I know that at age 18, when it was 2003, you actually started training to become a professional wrestler.
Yes.
And what caused you to just change routes and from a wrestler to a referee? How did that happen?
Yeah, basically, I was trained. Basically, when I started off, I was training and paying dues, building rings, just getting feet wet, starting to learn, just the absolute basics, 101. And I remember I went to a show with my trainer, and I built the ring. We would train during the day, and then I was just going to stay and watch the show. And the promoter actually forgot to book a referee. So, I'm 5'9", so I'm referee size basically. And, my trainer came to me, he's like, do you want to do this? And I said, yeah, I'm certain I can do this. I mean, this was in a part of the U.S. where it was a Friday night. You're running against high school football, where the show was big. So, so it wasn't a big stage show by any means. But I got in there, did the whole show, and it felt natural.
Right.
It felt like, I guess the saying, I felt like a duck on water, basically.
Right.
I came back after the show. My trainer looked at me, he's like, I think we found your calling. And I said I agreed, and then that just changed course, and off we go. And haven't looked back since.
I see. So you're happy with this whole, of being an official?
Yes. I'm a career referee. I will never go become a wrestler or anything like that. This is my calling. This is what I've spent my adult life doing, and this is what I will continue to do for the rest of my career. No regrets.
You brought up a very interesting term here, referee size. So what do you feel like? Does this term still exist in the business, or is it a thing of the past? Because we see a lot of wrestlers these days who are
it's more of a to each their own. From what I believe is, once again, as a referee, we're not the storytelling. It's not about us. We're the background fodder.
Right.
The best ref is one that is not seen until it's time to be seen. So it's a to each their own. Like I say, multiple flavors of ice cream in wrestling. So that was just in the context of for the company that I was working with at the time when I was coming up. That was just something that that might have been something that the promoter subscribed to at that point. But for me, it's I've never heard anything of a referee size. It's more of just doing me basically.
Okay. So you've worked all around the world. You've worked in Australia. You've worked in the U.S. Of course. What country is your favorite to work in? What do you think has the best fans?
Probably the United Kingdom. Australia at a close second. I've had the fortune of doing a few trips over to the UK in the past couple of years, and each time I've enjoyed it more than the last. And then Australia, for it being over on the other end of the world, it's just it feels in some ways like it's a world apart from everything, but it's not. Especially in this environment for wrestling now, with the invention of the internet, like we're doing right now, it makes it like it's a small world. The world is small now. I loved Australia. I love being over there. I love the culture over there. I enjoyed going over there, but I think the UK has to be my number one. I love going over there. I went over there twice. I went over twice last year, I think, for a couple of short stints. But hopefully, once we get through everything and things get back to some kind of normalcy, the attempt to get back over there is definitely going to be high on my list. But I absolutely love it over there. I'm actually I became a fan of the Premier League.
Really?
Over the course of my trips. So, yeah, I'm a Liverpool supporter. So
I see.
So actually, this morning got up this morning to watch Liverpool play this morning. U.S. time over here, so I enjoyed it over there. So yeah, the UK is going to be at the top of my list when
That's really
the opportunity
sweet.
avails to go back.
Do you also happen to love tea? I'm pretty sure you love tea by now, since you love the UK so much.
Oh, say it again. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure that you also love tea by now, since you love the UK so much.
I'm not much of a tea fan.
Okay.
I'm not much of a tea fan. My wife is more of a tea fan than I am, so I made sure I brought some back for her, but not necessarily so much for me. Nando's.
Okay.
All the way.
I see.
Gotta have some Nando's.
All right.
While I'm over there. So it was one of my first food stops, one of my last tour over there.
Fair enough. So we've talked about UK and Australia. Let's talk about US. Let's talk about Impact Wrestling. How has your experience been with Impact Wrestling so far?
It's been fantastic. It's been a place where I've been able to be challenged, to be able to learn different things and be able to challenge myself on a level that for a while I thought, I had just kind of plateaued a little bit. And to be able to work with some of the best in the world, especially over the past few years. It's been a fantastic experience. It's honestly, I never thought I would end with Impact. So I'm fortunate that I'm there. I'm fortunate that Impact has given me the confidence to be able to be around as long as I have. And, it's been a fantastic experience top to bottom.
I can tell you that the wrestling community, even the fans, the passionate fans, they really regard you as the best referee out there. So I'm pretty sure Impact is also very privileged to have you on the team. Speaking of Impact Wrestling, what do you think, in your opinion, has been the best match that you have had the pleasure of officiating for the company?
Gotta think about that. I think for me, what sticks out was a couple of different matches, honestly. I mean, my first night with the company, it was a Bound for Glory 2017, so I had the privilege of officiating the main event for the Impact World Championship. With Eli Drake and Johnny Impact. Something more recent. I mean, we had the Hard to Kill main event with Sami Callihan and Tessa Blanchard in Dallas in January. That was very memorable. So there's a few I can put into that list. It'd be real hard to kind of dwell down and say there's one that you can just stand firm on that this is the best, because, and also you never know what's coming. You know what I mean? So it's hard to make that assessment, obviously, because you don't know what's coming down the pike.
That's true. So, a lot of people say that the commentators are the one who have the best seat in the house. But I feel that the referees are the one who really have the best seat in the house. So has it ever happened to you that, you're officiating a match and all of a sudden the fan inside of you just wakes up and you're fanboying over what just happened in the ring? Has that ever happened to you?
No, not really, because I mean, when you're looking at it, when you're in there, you very much have to be in the moment as to
Right.
what's going on, especially when we're looking at the talent that we have nowadays, our athletes, and are pushing the boundaries of what they can do. So you always have to be present in the moment, especially from a health and safety standpoint, to make sure nothing happens. So no, there's not really a time when you're in there that you can really have that kind of that moment where you can kind of step back and look and be like, what's going on? It's honestly, if you do that, it's going back and watching the tapes afterwards, for when you can really just look and just kind of sit and watch it all kind of unfold under you after the fact. But when you're in the ring, no, it's business, focusing on what's going on in front of me.
That's what makes you a professional, yeah? So now that we've talked about the best part, let's talk about the hard part, because without hard times, there are no good times. Would you like to tell us any match that you feel was the hardest to officiate at Impact Wrestling?
Hardest to officiate? I would probably have to say Barbed Wire Massacre. We did that in November, December 2017, or was it late 2017, early 2018? It was the last one we did with LAX and OVE, because I'm not much of a death match official. It's just not my thing. So to officiate in that environment, which was something completely new, while I'm still relatively new at the company, with it being a multi-person match, health and safety just goes straight through the roof at that point. You're looking and just to make sure everybody, that there's no big injuries or anything, and the fact that there's no ropes, and the fact that the ropes are replaced with barbed wire. It is a unique environment, unlike anything that I have ever been experienced and ever been put into myself. So I think from that end, that would have to been the hardest match to officiate, solely based on the fact of the environment and the setting that it's in, with the increased risk that comes with being in a match of that type.
Right. So speaking of barbed wires and all these extreme matches, has it ever happened that you have, been injured in a wrestling match yourself while officiating it?
No, I've been fortunate enough that I've not had.
Yes.
Yeah, knock on wood. I've not had any major injuries during a match or anything of that nature. So I'm very much, and that comes with just being in the moment, being aware of your surroundings, and what's going on around you, and to be able to make sure that I don't inadvertently become part of the match, when that's not my place, because that's not my job, to also be able to protect myself at the same time.
So, Mr. Tolle, being a referee of your status, the fans know you. You get to travel all over the world. So you must have had a lot of good moments, being a referee all over your career. So what is that one memorable moment that you really cherish as a referee, that made you feel that, hey, all of these years of hard work and training, it was all worth it?
I think that probably would be Bound for Glory 2017, my first night with the company. Coming up through the independents, and having been with other companies over the years, Impact just was never something that I thought that was going to be in the realm for me. That's something that was going to happen for me. And when the opportunity presented itself, when I was given the opportunity to come to Impact, but not only coming to Impact, but starting on what is our WrestleMania at Bound for Glory. And then ending up officiating the main event that night. That was one of those moments where it didn't really sink in until I got there. That okay, this is happening,
This is it.
And I was like, all right, yeah,
So
this is good. And then you have that moment to take it in.
So you have had so many good moments, and you have had a great career almost, 17 years since you've been a referee,
Yep.
right? So what do you feel about, the fans' perspective of a referee? Because there are many stereotypes. Lots of people say that, hey, having a referee in a fake sport such as wrestling is just useless. Or, referees, they just get knocked out, they get knocked out. There are many stereotypes that go around when it comes to officials in wrestling. So what do you have to say about those stereotypes, and, what do you feel about them?
I don't really have anything to say toward the stereotypes because once again, it's just like flavors of ice cream. I just know what I feel for what I grew up in, what my craft is, and just to be able to, once again, I'm not the center point. I should never be the center point when I'm in there. It's about the competitors in front of me and what they are doing and what's going on with them. So, I mean, that is the theory that I subscribe to. I don't necessarily want to knock anything else or because once again, it's not, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and everyone's entitled to what they like, not everyone's going to like the same thing. So, I know what I subscribe to, and I know where I fit the best for what's being asked of me. And I'm one of those that I'm comfortable with absolutely blending into the background. I serve a specific purpose, and I'm very good at that purpose. And that's just where I'm going to stick. Just stay in my lane.
Absolutely. So, would you like to tell us how much training is needed to become a professional wrestling referee?
I mean, when I trained, a lot of it, my trainer was my trainer learned from Texas Wrestling Academy, Shawn Michaels Academy in San Antonio. He was one of the graduates of TWA when Shawn had that few-year layoff. So for me, it was risky. It's learning how to protect myself because once again, we've seen anything can happen when you step inside that ring. There's you can't say, all right, just A, B, C, and D is going to happen. You don't know. So you have to be able to protect yourself. So being able to know those basics in case something was to happen. And then honestly, from just a lot of tape study, and then practical application, being able to get the reps in. So I spent probably the better part of 3 years or so just in smaller areas with my trainer on smaller shows, and just a lot of just practice mock matches, being able to just really, really pick up, the nuances of it. And then, and I still study tape even to this day. I go back and watch footage. I go back and watch old footage. I watch footage of what's going on now. I watch my own footage. I watch footage. I watch Impact just like everybody else on Tuesday nights over here in the United States. And I go back and I'm my own worst critic. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look at what's going on in the matches that I'm officiating and try to see where I can improve and where I can get better. Because there's always more to learn. There's always ways to get better, whether it be large ways or small ways. So, it's just going back and just looking at tape, because you have to be able to look at tape to be able to see what's going on and then, try to put that in a practical application.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you haven't left your home since early March. So are you going to be officiating any match, in Slammiversary? Or is that not something that you're going to do?
Yes, I will be at Slammiversary. Yes, I've been. Yes. Yeah, that's one of the few things I've left home for since March is to go to where we are, where we've done our television and our television taping. So yes, I am on the road. I will be at Slammiversary next Saturday night. That
is great. And would you like to tell us which match is it that you're going to be officiating? Or is it going to be like a surprise?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. Those decisions are made far above my head. I'm not involved in the decision-making process with that. Basically, I look at it, I get told what we're doing, and then we just go. So I won't know until I'm there next Saturday, at some point next Saturday, what matches I'll be officiating. So, I'm not in that decision-making process.
I've always wondered, how do the referees get picked for each match? Is it like something random? Or is it planned? Or do the superstars want a particular referee to officiate their match? How does it happen?
To be honest, I wish I had an answer for you. But I legitimately don't know. Okay. It's not something that once again, I'm not involved in the conversations for that. Right. If that is something where a wrestler will ask for a certain ref, it's not conveyed to me. I'm basically just told from the powers above, from the powers that be, this is what it is. Go do. So I'm
I
just
see.
along for the ride, just there to just do my job.
Right. So when it comes to the card, the Slammiversary card, it is stacked. It is actually full power packed. So which match is it that you are looking forward to the most?
I said this earlier on in the week in another interview that I did. I think that because we have a loaded card. All the titles are on the line. It's Slammiversary on next Saturday. I'm looking forward to. I think this is going to be this. I hate to use the term sleeper match, but Chris Bay against Willie Mack for the X Division title. That match alone has the chance of stealing the show. And that's saying something when you have, the world title match that we have, the four-way for the world title, the North against Sammy and Ken Shamrock,
yes.
Jordan Deano. The card that we already have, that match alone has the chance to absolutely steal the night. So that is a match that I'm very looking forward to because both those guys are very talented individuals. And being, this is going to be, I think, Chris Bay's first actual pay-per-view with the company. And so to be on this platform with time to shine, I honestly think they're both going to rise to the occasion. And I would not be surprised if that match steals the show.
That is a bold statement, and I hope it happens. So, as I said earlier, Mr. Tolle, you are regarded by the fans in the community as the most, elite, the best referee out there. So, how do you feel about it? And
I appreciate the compliment. I have not been doing this long enough, in my opinion, to be in that equation or in that picture. So there are other refs that have done this way longer than I have on the platforms that I'm on and have built up that career. So to those that think that, thank you very much. I humbly appreciate the compliment. But I believe I am not at that point. I'm making the most of the opportunity that's given to me right now. Impact's given me a great opportunity to be with them and to be a part of what we're doing. And maybe somewhere down the line, years from now, then maybe there'll be a justification, in my opinion, to be put into that conversation. So I don't really believe I'm in that conversation, but to those that do, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're quite humble to say that you've not been here long enough. Almost 2 decades is quite a long time. And you talked about, many referees doing that even longer than you have. And is there a referee that you actually look up to that, inspires you to, be even a better version of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the tape I've studied, I mean, we can go back. I mean, you study Tommy Young when he was at the NWA in the 80s. Earl Hebner, TNA Hall of Famer. One of my best friends, Jason Ayers, who's with another company, who's done this longer than I have. I mean, you can just go down through the list. I mean, Jimmy Corderas, someone who I still talk to this day, as a source of knowledge, and if I have questions or if I want to sit or learn to be able to try to pick and take from those guys that have done it way longer on bigger platforms with some of the biggest talent that the business has ever produced.
Right. If you were to go, I'm just curious because I'm a curious guy, so I have to ask you this: if you were to go back 18 years ago, back in time, and you had 2 options: become the referee, the world famous referee, or become a wrestler and a possible world champion, which route would you pick? A referee or a world champion?
I have to say referee because I'll be honest, once I knew that refereeing was a natural thing for me, I realized that I had the talent to be able to do this. Becoming a wrestler never entered into my thought process. So I've never had a time in my career that I thought, hey, maybe I could go transition to become a wrestler and be a world champion. Because I mean, to be a world champion, you're toiling at your craft and at your career for many, many years, for decades, to be able to get to the point where you can, where you become a world champion.
Absolutely.
Some longer than others. So I've never had that process. So for me, the entertaining, the concept of being a wrestler has never entered my mind. Once I decided that refereeing was what I was going to do, it's what I was going to do, and I wanted to put everything I could into it instead of saying, well, I didn't give it 100%, what if?
Awesome.
So it's been a ref. It's always way. It's going to be the no change of foot for me to go in a different direction.
Of course, no, I totally agree with you. You are really good at what you do, and as you said, being a referee is a craft, and it's not just the performer. Of course, the wrestlers, they make a match, but without a referee, a lot can go good and a lot can go bad. And you watching your match is a total pleasure. I can say that. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
being
Thank you very
you, and
much.
thank you for being Mr. Brandon Toll. It's a total pleasure watching your matches. So last advice, I'm going to ask you the last question. Do you have any advice for our listeners, anybody who is an aspiring referee or wants to get involved with the business? Do you have any piece of advice for them?
Yeah, look for a credible training school to be able to learn. Training schools today not only cater just to wrestlers, but they cater to referees as well. So being a referee is not a short term game. It is a long. You have to play the long game. Being a referee, nothing comes quick, nothing comes easy. It's a lot of hard work, and a lot of toiling, and a lot of just toiling at your career just to get to where you can do great things with the best talent in the world. So seek out a credible training academy that actually has a course catered to referees specifically, because they're out there. You'll have to find them, but they're out there. And then once you make that decision, dedicate yourself 110% to it. Don't try to be a wrestler. It's devote yourself fully to this, because in being a referee in this line of work, it is a long game. Nothing will come quick, nothing will come easy. So it takes that kind of dedication, my opinion, to do that. So, but yeah, that would be the start. Just seeking out a credible training academy and learning those basics, because those basics are everything you build on is from that.
That's very useful piece of advice. And once you're done with the training, Indies is a good place to start, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, that's how most everybody comes. You come through the independents. I mean, I was on the independents for many years. Even when I was with other companies that were on higher platforms, I was still working the independents. So the independents is the way to go. You go out and you start building that that body of work. And that body of work based on the talent and the time that you put into it, and the showing that apt ability to be able to do the job to the best of your ability in the ring. Then then that could potentially open up doors for you for there.
All right, awesome. That was a great piece of advice from you, Mr. Toll. And I told you that this was going to be the last question, but I'm a curious guy. And while you were answering that question, I got another question popping into my head. So I have to ask you that.
Sure.
Let's talk 20 years down the line. What's next for you after 20 years? Is it going to be retirement, Hall of Fame, or maybe a producer? What do you think is next for you?
Don't know, to be honest with you. If there is something that opens up behind the scenes to be able to continue on behind that, I would absolutely jump at that opportunity. But who knows at this point? I mean, a lot has changed. I mean, you can look back, within 3 or 5 years, and things change so quick.
They do.
You just got to be able to take any opportunity that comes your way. So who knows at this point? I mean, I have a college degree, so if it comes to it, and it's time to just hang them up. I have a college degree in education and music that I can fall
Oh, really?
on and go into that line of work. I mean, I've been, I dabble in that a little bit. I have something coming out next week that was a part of musically related. So who knows? So, you don't know. It's hard to say with a glass ball what's going to come down 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. So, I know I'm making the most of the opportunity that I have now with Impact, and I'm going to take this opportunity and, like I have for past 2.5 years, giving it 110% and just make the most of it and just go from there.
Awesome.
One day at a time.
Absolutely, Mr. Toll. It was such a pleasure having you on the show, and I couldn't have had a better guest on the debut episode of the Wrassingh Show than yourself. Mr. Toll, you really are a pioneer, and there's a lot we can learn from you. So thank you so much for your valuable advice to the aspiring referees out there, and to give us a little more info on the behind the scenes, what goes on in the wrestling business. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Toll, and good luck for Slammiversary.
Thank you, AJ. Appreciate it. And everybody, Slammiversary next Saturday night. Please tune in.
This brings us to the end of episode 1 featuring Impact Wrestling's Mr. Brandon Tolle. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to share it with your friends and fellow wrestling fans. And this might be the end of the episode, but this is just the beginning of a very long journey as we continue to share with you unknown and unheard wrestling stories directly from wrestling talent and wrestling insiders from all across the globe. Be sure to tune in next week and every week after next week to the Wrassingh Show on all major streaming platforms. Thank you so much and see you soon.